Coming up on a absolutely loaded edition of the Kev BKA Beloved Show, we got the NFL offseason tiers, a women's college basketball March Madness preview, talking about Nick Saban on Capitol Hill. We're done with the 90s, and of course, a rest in peace salute to our guy Akira Toriyama. But first, thank you so much for listening. Do not forget, like, favorite, subscribe, rate, review, give us 5 stars. How you not gonna give us 4 stars if you're gonna rate? Come on now. Share with your friends, comment, tell a friend to tell a friend, blah, 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 blah. All right, so this first segment with the NFL free agency is the number one reason why I had to push this podcast back. It is currently Thursday, March 14th at 6:30 p.m. And NFL free agent news is coming in left and right. Free agency window officially opened yesterday, which would have been traditional release date, but gotta wait for the free agent news. So everything you're gonna hear after this first segment was recorded before it. Anyways, let's get into these NFL offseason free agents. Before we do that, I want to explain to the cap isn't real people. I don't want to say these people are bad at math because that would be rude, but you're misunderstanding how the cap math actually works. So let me try and work this out. Let me break it down a little bit for you. So the way cap hits actually work and the way contracts are announced are not exactly the same thing. For example, let's say me signs a 3-year, $99 million guaranteed, $120 million total contract with the New England Patriots, right? The Patriots ain't giving out that type of money these days. We will get to that later. So the average person hears that and is like, oh, 3 years, $120 million, he's getting $40 million a year. It's not exactly how that works. What's actually happening is the cap hit is going to be different every single year. Even if you just did the guaranteed money, those 3 years wouldn't just be $33 million a year. That's not how that works. So it'll be something along the lines of year 1, it'll be 20 million. Year 2, it'll be 40. Year 3, it'll be 60. Somewhere in that range to make the math work out. Which is why you hear things like such and such is restructuring his contract to push the guaranteed money back. So that guaranteed money, they're still going to get it because it's guaranteed at signing. It's part of the contract. But think of it as a interest-free credit card. We're going to pay you this minimum payment this season. So instead of paying you all 40 of your fully guaranteed that you were due this season, let's restructure this so the cap hit will be split between this season and next year. So we're going to take this 40 that was supposed to be the hit this year, split it in half. So we're going to put the 20 onto the 40 you were supposed to get next year. So now next year will be 60, barring we don't restructure you again. And that is how teams are able to open up cap space. But the flip side of that is you end up in a situation like the New Orleans Saints, where they've been restructuring contracts and kicking the can down the road and putting stuff on credit cards forever since those last couple of Drew Brees years when they kept trying to make those pushes for a Super Bowl, which is how they ended up with negative $85 million in cap space now. Teams find a way around it. They find a way to understand the math. It's not just the GMs working it out. They have literally dedicated people in the front office that work out the cap numbers for them. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, please let me know in the comments. I'll make a full video breaking it down a lot better. I'll go up to my whiteboard. I'll draw it out examples, give you graphics, player examples, all that fun shit. All right, that's enough preamble. Let's get into these tiers, shall we? We're going to start with the S tier, and without a doubt, this should go without saying, the Atlanta Falcons are having the best offseason out of anybody. They signed the best available free agent with Kirk Cousins. You can argue it's Chris Jones, but Chris Jones went back to Kansas City, so he doesn't count. They managed to give Kirk Cousins his first non-fully guaranteed contract in like 6 years. And I know some of you like to make the Kirk Cousins money jokes, and don't get me wrong, he's a back securer to the fullest. But he doesn't qualify as a stealer of money, ski mask Hall of Famer. And let me tell you why. One, he's too good to qualify for that. Ski Mask Hall of Famer is reserved for players who are not good, that are stealing money. Kirk Cousins ain't stealing a damn thing because you know exactly what you are signing up for when you bring Kirk Cousins into your organization. You hope that you can elevate him to something higher, but you're only fooling yourself, which is the reason why he's not getting Patrick Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson money. He gets Kirk Cousins money. And if you are a fantasy football player or an actual receiver or running back on the Falcons, you should be jumping up and down right now. Because another thing Kirk Cousins is great at is making sure all his weapons eat. There has never been a receiver one that has played with Kirk Cousins that has not put up numbers. Even Stephon Diggs, who was mad and left the Vikings, that was not about Kirk Cousins. That was a contract situation. And he wanted to be a wide receiver one, and they preferred Adam Thielen. Was that stupid? Yes, but he was getting his numbers. Justin Jefferson, same thing. You're gonna get your targets with Kirk Cousins. He is a buddy ball All-American. Him and Matt Stafford are like first team all buddy ball. And it was so funny at the press conference. He said him and Kyle Pitts were talking about who's going to get the number 8. And he tried to offer to pay Kyle Pitts. And Kyle Pitts was like, buddy, just target me every game. And I promise you can have the number. It's fine. It's yours. And he's laughing it off. I'm looking at Kirk Cousins. I'm like, bro, Kyle Pitts is traumatized. Throw that man the ball. But don't you worry, Kirk Cousins will. Speaking of throwing the ball, they also picked up Darnell Mooney, signed him to a nice little 3-year deal, $26 million fully guaranteed. And this is a nice little tidbit I got from Warren Sharp and Sharp Analytics. Nearly 40% of the deep targets of Darnell Mooney's entire career have been inaccurate. I just want you to think about all the quarterbacks who have played for the Bears since Darnell Mooney has been there. That should not come off as a surprise to any of you. Over that span of time, would you like to know who the most accurate deep ball thrower is? You guessed it, Mr. Kirk Cousins. Add in, they also just traded away Desmond Ridder for Rondale Moore with a 1-for-1 player trade, because I feel like Kirk Cousins came in and was like, hey, get that bum out my locker room. It's bad vibes. Get him out of here. And the Falcons, now they have the best quarterback in their division by far. They're now competent. They're 1 or 2 wins away from making the playoffs last year. And the team that won their division was a game out of the NFC Championship. I'm not saying they're the favorites in the NFC, but their ceiling is unbelievably higher simply by these moves they made this offseason. They are a contender in the NFC. Not the favorite, but they are a contender. You got to give them credit for that. Next up in the S tier, we got to go to Philadelphia Eagles. And that goddamn Howie Roseman boy. I just got to read off these names. Saquon Barkley, re-signing Landon Dickinson, bringing back Brandon Graham for another year, bringing in Bryce Huff, who, if you didn't watch the Jets last year, because why would you do that to yourself? He was a very high mark on that team. Brought back Chauncey Gardner-Johnson and re-signed Jake Elliott, their kicker, who hits 50-yarders in the rain. I know bringing in Saquon Barkley, there was a lot of news around that. The whole don't pay a running back, the vision thing, and Giants fans, specifically Tiki Barber, being little, I was going to say something a lot meaner, but that would be my bitter Patriots fans coming out, but we'll get to the Giants later. But I want to focus mainly on people saying the offensive line isn't going to be as good or isn't going to be good at all without Jason Kelce. Now, will they be as good? No. You don't lose a Hall of Fame center and it's like, oh, everything's going to be fine. No, that's not how that works. But they drafted Cam Jurgens years ago with the hopes that he was going to replace Kelce once he retired. Kelce just so happened to play a couple years longer than they planned for. So all those extra years of development, they already have the guy ready to slide in. And plus, not only is this the best offensive line that Saquon Barkley has ever played with, this is the only good one he's ever played with. This is the only good receiving core he's ever played with. This is the only good quarterback he's ever played with. He has had to deal with the ghost of Eli Manning, Daniel Jones, Tommy Cutlets, and Tyrod Taylor has been the best quarterback he's played with his whole career. And y'all expected him to be Barry Sanders. Come on now. Moving on down to the A tier. First team up, we got the Baltimore Ravens, who signed Derrick Henry, re-signed Justin Madubuike, and bought in quarterback Josh Johnson to a 1-year deal. Now, Bomani Jones has one of my favorite football theories ever, where he said if you have a black starting quarterback, you have to have a black backup so that you can keep the fan base calmed down a little bit. So if the black starting quarterback starts fucking up, they're not calling for the white guy. The Ravens have an all-black quarterback room. Even the QB coach is black. I didn't even know they made those. And Josh Johnson, I talked about him for my Black QB History Month, is a bag chaser All-American, baby. Keep bringing him back. But obviously the headline here is signing Derrick Henry. And before I get to the positive, I have to get this out the way. For the fantasy football players, do not, and I repeat, do not draft Derrick Henry in the first 2 rounds. Do not draft Ravens running backs. Don't do it. Everyone falls for it every year. Don't do it. The only person running the football on the Ravens you should draft is Lamar Jackson. Anyone else, no. Either thank me later or once you ignore me and do it, don't say I didn't tell you so. But the thought of Patrick Ricard at damn near 300 pounds and Derrick Henry at 260 coming at you downhill full speed, and the alternative is the quarterback who's the fastest player on the field. Good luck. Good luck. The only reason they're not S tier is because I still think they need offensive line help. Not a big fan of trading away Morgan Moses. Was he perfect? No, but y'all ain't really in position to be getting rid of linemen right now. Also losing Patrick Queen. They re-signed Malik Harrison, but he's not Patrick Queen. I really want to see what they do in the draft. I still think whatever is the better prospect between a receiver and a tackle, they end up going there, but they need both. Luckily, this draft has a shit ton of both of them. Next team in the A tier, we got the Houston Texans, who traded for Joe Mixon, re-signed Dalton Schultz, signed Danielle Hunter, signed not one, not two, but three different cornerbacks, and re-signed their safety Eric Murray. Oh, I'm sorry, 4 different cornerbacks. I missed one. They managed to fill their 2 biggest needs with big name players in the offseason. They traded a 7th round pick for Joe Mixon. Shame on the Bengals for letting him go for that low of a price after he took a pay cut for that team. Players, stop taking pay cuts. And then brought in Danielle Hunter, who is 12 to 15 sacks every single year, to put him on the other side of Will Anderson, who's going to take another big leap next year. Jeff Okudah is finally going to prosper on the other side of Derek Stingley Jr. in D'Amico Ryan's defense. I love the moves they made this offseason. I still think, because if you're the Texans, you have to be thinking, how do we compete with the Chiefs right now because you have that quarterback? I still think they're 1 or 2 moves away from putting him in that, all right, we're Super Bowl contenders now. Right now, they're like, all right, we can get 12, 13 wins and lose in the AFC Championship, which for most second-year quarterbacks is cool. But I think they should have a little higher aspirations than that. That's why they're in the A tier. Oh, yeah, and they re-signed their kicker, which is good. Good kickers are hard to find in the NFL. So if you have a good one, hold them down. Next up, we got the B tier, starting with the Jacksonville Jaguars, trading for Mac Jones, signing Gabe Davis, bringing in 3 different offensive linemen with Blake Hance, Ezra Cleveland, Mitch Morris, franchise tagging Josh Allen, signing Darnell Savage, and signing Eric Armstead as of literally 3 minutes before I press record. After the way Trevor Lawrence got kicked around last year, they needed to bring in some offensive line help. That wasn't negotiable. Would I have preferred if they went out and got a tackle? Sure. Is Tyron Smith still out there? And probably by the time y'all hear this, he might already be a Jaguar? Probably. And that's why they're at the B tier. I like these signings. I really do. But the fact that the 2 biggest needs they had that I felt they had this offseason, which is offensive tackle and cornerback, they still have not filled, is a little concerning. And they might have overpaid for Gabe Davis on the open market, but compared to the contract Calvin Ridley got, they got a bargain. Because we all know wide receiver 1 in Jacksonville is Christian Kirk. We scoffed at his contract he got that time, but right now that shit look like a bargain. And the Patriots fan in me wants to have a much longer Mac Jones discussion. I'll spare you off of that for now, but what I will say is he's not in quarterback competition with Trevor Lawrence. Obviously, that's clickbaity stuff that it's NFL offseason and a lot of podcasts and shows need a topic to talk about. But I will say this. Trevor Lawrence is due for a big contract pretty soon. And just like the Cowboys traded for Trey Lance, and a lot of teams were calling about Trey Lance and they did not deal him. And Dak Prescott's due for a big contract as well. Neither one of them have been re-signed, and both of them have a freshly traded new backup in the locker room. I don't believe in coincidences. Just keeping that in mind. Next up in the B tier, we have the Green Bay Packers. And before we talk about the offseason moves, I just want to take this time to cover Jordan Love in prayer, Mother God, because, oh my Lord, there's something about Green Bay Packer quarterbacks where when they get into a late age in their career, they just lose their goddamn minds. And right now, his options are either steal money from poor people, allegedly, so far doesn't sue me, or I don't even know where to start with Aaron Rodgers. 1 second it's vaccines, the next second it's aliens, the next second it's Jeff Epstein, the next one it's Sandy Hook wasn't real, now he's running for vice president. I don't know, just Aaron Rodgers in general, and just summarize from there. Cover Jordan Love in prayer if you are a praying person. All the prayer warriors out there, say a quick one for Jordan Love tonight, please. But anyways, bringing in Josh Jacobs, re-signing Tyler Davis, re-signing 2 corners, one of which is their kick returner. I like it. Bring the corners back. And my favorite signing they made is signing Xavier McKinley, who was if the Patriots don't bring back Kyle Duggar, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, go get Xavier McKinley. I wanted him coming out of Bama, but that didn't work out that way. But again, they still have that gaping hole of they don't have a top flight wide receiver 1, and they still need a top flight corner because who knows what's going on with them and Jair Alexander right now. And re-signing these young guys are nice, but you're going to need a vet in there soon because Jordan Love, again, cover him in prayer, is going to be in position to make a leap and be a contending quarterback. And as an organization, it is in your best interest to surround him with the best chance to be a contending quarterback. Just saying. Moving on down to the C tier, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who famously traded for Russell Wilson, signed Patrick Queen, traded for Deontay Jackson, and re-signed their long snapper. Ooh, how fun. Now, the reason they're in the C tier is okay, you made some moves. I see where you're going, but meh. And that's kind of why I feel about this. It's meh. I don't believe anyone who says that Russell Wilson is in quarterback competition with Kenny Pickett. Bullshit. Bullshit. You don't sign Russell Wilson, I don't care how much his contract costs, with plans of putting him on the bench. If they still believed in Kenny Pickett, you don't bring in a former Super Bowl winning quarterback and one of the most famous quarterbacks we have in the league to come in and be his backup to push him. That's not how this works. Unless Russ gets hurt or completely fucks it up, he will be a starter next year. Also, I really like the Patrick Queen signing. I like the fact now that the Steelers have an all-pro at all 3 levels. They got Mink on the back end, they got Patrick Queen in the middle, and they got 2 up front actually with Cam Hayward, although he might be in a different phase of his career, and TJ Watt on the front end. It's beautiful. I like the way it's looking, but do any of these moves make you think, oh yeah, the Steelers can compete with the Chiefs right now? No, not at all. Next up in the C tier, we have the Los Angeles Rams, who re-signed DeMarcus Robinson, signed Colby Parkinson, re-signed Kevin Dotson, signed Jonah Jackson, and signed Demarius Williams. My biggest question for the Rams going into the offseason was, how are we going to maximize the rest of Matt Stafford's career? You know what a great way to do that is? Bring in some linemen. They went in and brought in Jonah Jackson from the Lions, who they had first-hand experience of how good of a player that man is. They would have get him in the playoffs, and he got to manhandling folks. And I'm sure they made a call to Aaron Donald and was like, hey, is he that good? Yes, he is. Bring him in. And I like what I saw from Kobe Turner last year and a lot of those other young guys on the defensive front end, but I do think they need one more guy, just one more, that more than likely they'll find in the draft because they draft really, really well. There's one more guy on that defensive front 7, and I think they'll be cooking with grease next year. All right, now we'll get to our honorable mentions, the technically not in the tier list, but they're in the tier list. First up, the Tennessee Titans. They signed Mason Rudolph, brought in Tony Pollard, signed Calvin Ridley for all the money in the world, brought in Lloyd Cushenberry, signed Chidobe Awuzie, signed Kenneth Murray, signed Nick Folk, and also they found a long snapper. The Calvin Ridley contract feels like they're overcorrecting for the A.J. Brown mistake, which to some extent, don't make the same mistake twice, but to other extent, don't let your past mistakes now paint your future. But I do like the idea of bringing in another veteran receiver and a veteran center. Like that's the sneaky one that people don't think about when it comes to curating a young quarterback. A veteran center who can make those line calls and make the protection calls so that he's not getting lit the fuck up back there. Pretty fucking important. Good on you, Titans. Good on you. But I don't know where in the rebuild process they are, because even with making all these moves, they're still the worst team in their division. I don't know. And they're saying veteran mentorship, bringing in Mason Rudolph. I don't know how you can watch Mason Rudolph's career or Kenny Pickett's development and think that's an actual thing. Next up, we got the Las Vegas Raiders as an honorable mention, signing Gardner Minshew, re-signing Amir Abdullah, re-signing center Andre James, and my favorite, bringing in Christian Wilkins. The idea of Christian Wilkins and Max Crosby on the same defensive line gives me the warm fuzzies. Like the thought that they will both be rushing the passer at the same time is just mwah. Whatever madman in the front office decided to make that move, good on you. Good on you. You may not be able to outscore Mahomes, but you can beat the shit out of him. That's one way to get it done. The reason they're not on a tier list is, why is Josh Jacobs on another team? 4 years, $48 million? Y'all ain't had $12 million a year? Y'all had 2 years, $25 million for Gardner Minshew. Anyone who actually thinks Gardner Minshew played well last year must not have been watching the Colts and have just been watching their win-loss record. He was not good last year. They were winning in spite of him, not because of him. All right, dishonorable mentions. Got 2 teams here. First up, the New York Giants. Oh, buddy. This one's rough. They brought in Drew Lock, signed Devin Singletary, Isaiah McKenzie. The 2 signings they have that I actually do like, signed Jermaine Elamanier? Yeah, that sounds right. Offensive guard John Runyan. Traded for Brian Burns and gave him all the money in the world. 5 years, $76 million fully guaranteed. And brought in Jalen Mills. The reason they are a dishonorable mention is because you let your best player walk outside the door because you overpaid for a quarterback that every rumor suggests you already want to get rid of. And you are doubling down on those moves with all the moves you just made. So you bring in a lesser running back, trade for Brian Burns, didn't have to give up too much, especially considering that the Rams almost gave up 2 firsts and a second for him last year. But you then pay him, knowing you're also going to have to pay Kayvon Thibodeau next year because he took a leap. I just don't know what are the Giants doing? What are they doing? Like, what the fuck is going on in the Giants front office? And Giants fans have the nerve to get mad at Saquon Barkley for wanting to leave this dumpster fire who didn't even offer him a contract. Imagine not even offering your best player a contract. They didn't even try to franchise tag him for the second year in a row. They just let him walk. And the fans have the nerve to get mad at him because he went to a rival. Fuck, y'all want him to work an internship at the Giants? Fuck out of here. All right, so there's probably another team that's more fitting to be in the dishonorable mention spot, but I'm biased, so fuck it. The New England Patriots are in the dishonorable mention spot. I don't even feel like going through all the moves that they went through because it's a lot of re-signings, bringing back a lot of retreads. And quite honestly, here's the real reason I'm real upset at the Patriots offseason. In the months since Belichick has no longer been the head coach of the Patriots, every leaked story, this whole absolutely kamikaze smear campaign attack that is the Dynasty documentary on Apple TV, everything is saying Bill Belichick has been the problem this whole time. Tom Brady and Robert Kraft were able to build the dynasty in spite of him, only for this offseason to be the most Belichick-y offseason we've ever had. What makes me say that? Because with the exception of Antonio Gibson, everyone we signed is a Belichick guy. All of them. All this bullshit that they were telling us about how we're going to spend money in the offseason. Oh, we're going to go spend on some free agents. Bullshit. We got $250 million to build a goddamn lighthouse, but we can't use the cap space that we would need to spend anyways on something to go get some blue chippers. We ain't even re-signed Kyle Duggar yet. He still got his tag on him. What are we doing? Now all of a sudden they're trying to steer it to, oh, well, Elliott Wolf always wanted to build through the draft. Nah, bruh, we have the article still. We still have the snippets. We have your interviews. They're still on YouTube. We can find them. Why are you lying to us right now? Why? All right, last point I wanted to make. I feel like I've been taking crazy pills about the Justin Fields situation for months now, especially now that y'all are trying to tell me that there is no market at all for Justin Fields when I just saw that Nathan Peterman just got another job in the NFL. He is on the Saints now. What are we doing? And you're telling me nobody wants to trade for Justin Fields. Unless a story comes out that the Bears are just asking for too goddamn much, okay, that's different. But if you're telling me no one thinks Justin Fields is a starter-level quarterback when I just watched Sam Darnold get a guaranteed $10 million when we all know he fucking stinks? Like, come on, bro. Sam Darnold, this is now going to be team number 4 for him, but we still got to see what his potential. But I'm supposed to believe that Justin Fields isn't a starting-level quarterback anymore after we all know the Bears are a fucking dumpster fire. Speaking of dumpster fires, if you're the New York Jets, you have to get another option at quarterback this year. It is essential. You cannot do this Aaron Rodgers shit anymore. I'm not saying trade him. I'm not saying cut him. But you cannot go into this season again with Aaron Rodgers being your only option. That was already the case because he's 40 years old coming off an Achilles tear. But now with all this bullshit that's going on with him, there's a chance this man could be in court filing a defamation lawsuit because he's denying whether the Sandy Hook children were actually killed when their parents are still mourning their death a decade later. He already skated from accusing Jimmy Kimmel of being a fucking pedophile. And then Robert F. Kennedy, and I almost don't even want to give that a dignified response because an unserious presidential candidate is going to pick an unserious vice presidential candidate. Duh. And if his name was Robert F. Smith Jr. and not Robert F. Kennedy Jr., we wouldn't even be talking about that man. But all this extracurricular bullshit around Aaron Rodgers, bro, if I'm the Jets, I trade for Justin Fields right now. I'm Joe Douglas. I'm calling Ryan Poles right now. Brett, name your price. Just name it. Anything short of a first-round draft pick, it's yours. It's all yours. First-round draft pick and our obvious blue chippers on our roster is yours. We cannot do this Aaron Rodgers shit again. All right, that's enough yelling. Enjoy the more calmer segments. Well, one of them's also angry, but enjoy the more calmer segments. We're going to take a quick break. All right, so I know I'm late, but I got to talk about this "we're done with the 90s" trend because everything about it is so funny to me. And I hate watching everyone miss the irony of the outrage and the takes on the other side, right? What old heads have failed to realize this whole time is my generation and younger have been hearing y'all discredit our stars our entire lives. For example, the biggest show that talks about basketball features 2.5 Hall of Famers. Well, 3.5 if you count Ernie Johnson, but he's not a basketball. Y'all know what I mean. Who hate the modern game. So pre-game, halftime, and post-game of the biggest games of the season, we have to hear them talk down on our legends all the time for over a decade. And now that the rabbit got the guns, how dare you discredit that shit don't feel so good now, does it? For all of y'all that aren't familiar with the "we're done with the 90s" shred, so apparently the Gen Z kids, which I guess technically I'm a part of, I'm born late 90s, so we don't, depends on who you ask. If you're born post in that 96 to 98 range, you're either a really young millennial or really old Gen Zer. I don't know yet. Consult your nearest Google. But basically, the Gen Zers have found the 90s basketball games on YouTube and are watching them, are like, nah, these are the people y'all keep trying to tell me are better than my GOATs. Get the fuck out of here. And after hearing y'all discredit our legends our whole life, naturally, the response is going to be, well, fuck y'all too. Y'all playing against plumbers. Hearing y'all talk about the 90s like it's Greek mythology, completely forgetting that Google exists, we can go back and watch all of your heroes, and to be honest, 99% of them are not that impressive. This vaunted 90s defense that y'all keep talking about, you're not talking about actual defensive skill, getting in a stance and moving side to side. You're talking about hard fouls. You weren't stopping our legends because y'all are so good at defense, with the exception of like Dennis Rodman and Scottie Pippen. You're stopping them because you were going to punch them in the face. Now, which one sounds easier to learn? Kyrie Irving's layup package or punching somebody in the face when they're not expecting it. And most of these hard foul artists aren't even going to be able to play in today's game because they are not skilled enough. For example, Bill Laimbeer. You're talking about a 6'10" white center who can't play make, shoot threes, or guard the perimeter. How many of them are in today's game right now? The answer is 0. They're going to play you off the floor. That has nothing to do with fouls. We're talking about skill sets. Now, some of these takes I just can't get with. I'll be honest. Like, Michael Jordan had a left hand. We can relax. Mike had a left hand. Clyde Drexler didn't have a left hand. He was still a pretty damn good player without one. When we start getting into extremes, like these 90 players are going to be able to come into this league and average 35 points a game, like, stop it, bro. Stop it. Like, even from a mathematical standpoint, that shit don't make no damn sense. It's players that couldn't consistently get the 25 points a game that get a podcast mic in front of them, and all of a sudden you would have came into that modern NBA and got 90 a game. Stop it, bro. Stop it. Now, as far as the Jordan versus LeBron debate, I've always had the same answer. LeBron James is my GOAT because the Michael Jordan I watched in real time played for the Wizards. To me, that's a very simple debate. I don't have to go back and forth with y'all. If Jordan's your GOAT, cool. If Bron's your GOAT, cool. If Kobe's your GOAT, cool. Kareem, Magic, whoever your greatest player of all time is, awesome. Mazel tov. That's all you. And at this point in NBA discourse, nobody's going to change their mind. And how do you expect me? My first conscious basketball memory, the first game I could remember vividly watching in real time, was the 2000 NBA Finals, Allen Iverson Sixers versus the Shaq and Kobe Lakers. By that time, Mike was already retired, and LeBron was 3 or 4 years away from even entering the league. So I've watched LeBron's entire career That's still happening. How do you expect me to think anyone else is the greatest player ever when I've been watching every step of this process? I'm a Celtics fan. I've been on the receiving end of a lot of this process. So just to wrap this up in a nice, pretty neat bow, it's so funny every single time that I watch the older generation that calls my generation and younger so sensitive and these kids can't handle criticism and they think they're right all the time. The moment y'all have started catching the heat that y'all have been giving us our entire lives, oh my God, full-blown meltdowns. Barbershops across the world are on fire. My man, what's my man name? Chilltown Sports on Twitter. Not on Twitter, on TikTok. Old head dude, gray hair dude. Y'all know exactly what I'm talking about. Sit on this couch, talk game. I rock with OG. But at the same time, watching him have full-blown meltdowns on TikTok Live, that's a tough look, my guy. That's a tough look. And I say that to you and your entire generation. That's a real tough look on y'all part, man. I need y'all to get it together. All right, quick break, and then we'll get to our next topic. As of Sunday, March 17th, it is Selection Sunday for March Madness. And you may think, are we going to talk about the men's tournament? You're damn right we're not, because who gives a shit? Outside of Bronny James, I can't name a single men's basketball player. And as a fan of the women's basketball game, I want to do a quick little preview. Got a good amount of teams that I think have a chance to win it all this year. Also, this is the first podcast I've done since the South Carolina and LSU brawl. I feel like this topic has been beaten to death, so don't worry. I'll be brief. Couple points. One, if this game was great and drama-free, double overtime, game-winning shot at the last second, and oh my God, look at these amazing players, and blah, blah, blah. All these sports outlets would have done is ran highlights from the Iowa game anyways, so they can display Caitlin Clark some more, and rightfully so. She's the best player in the country and the most marketable star in women's sports. So a game y'all would have ignored for the most part regardless, y'all should have went ahead and did that anyways. Secondly, a lot of the response I saw from people within the sport is a whole lot of, well, how will they look at us? Specifically from black fans and black people within the sport. And a lot of it comes from a great place, from people who are trying to grow the sport and don't want there to be a negative connotation. I get it. But me personally, I'm just not that type of guy to give a fuck how they, or whatever you interpret as they, you're correct, how they see me. I just never cared about that, because we know what's going on over here. We know Camila Cardozo is not a violent player. We know that because we watch her. We know that's not how South Carolina get down. We know that's not how LSU get down. We know Don Staley's a class act. So if they don't know that, that says more about them than it does about this sport we love. Okay, now we can talk about the actual teams. And since we brought up South Carolina, they are the prohibited favorites. I don't believe in the one team versus the field philosophy in any sport. However, if there was a case where that would be the case, it's this one. ESPN's Women's Basketball Power Index gives them a 39% chance to win. The second highest team is UConn with a 13.9% chance to win it all. We will get to UConn shortly. The Gamecocks are the only Division I team that is undefeated. They are undefeated through the regular season for the second year in a row. They have only lost 2 games or fewer in 4 of the last 5 seasons, including a national championship in 2022, and looked unbeatable again last year until Caitlin Clark went nuclear in the Final Four. Oh, and they couldn't buy a bucket from 3 that game either. So, of course, Don Staley went out there and found all the 3-point shooters she could find over the offseason, which I find hilarious. The closest they came to losing this year was the conference championship semifinal versus Tennessee. And then Coach Don Staley was like, hey, you know our 6'7" center who hasn't attempted an in-game 3 her entire career? How about we draw up a play for her? Knockdown. Game over. Now, they will be without Camila for at least 1 game. At the time I'm recording this, they haven't officially announced what the punishment will be, but I'm assuming it'll only be a game. We're still trying to make some money here. Come on now, get her back in there. But this is a team that lost all 5 of its starters from last year, including number 1 pick Aaliyah Boston, and they haven't missed a single beat. So I think they'll be fine for at least a game in the tournament as far as moving on. Next team with the best chance to win it, we got Iowa, and this one's simple. If you have the best player in the country, you got a chance to win it all. They had no business winning in the Final Four last year. Case in point, they went to the national championship and got spanked against a team that hasn't beat South Carolina in their last 16 games. They just won their third Big Ten championship in a row, and although Caitlin Clark has been struggling from three pretty much the whole tournament, but specifically that last game, still managed to come through with a 3-game total of 86 points, was really good playmaking and distributing the ball. The assist numbers may not show it, but she got a lot of what you call hockey assists, which for y'all that don't watch hockey, which is when you pass it to the person that gets the assist. Now, they may be lacking in size just a little bit compared to how they were last year, but on the other hand, most of the teams with size in this tournament do not also have a dominant guard, especially to the caliber of Caitlin Clark. So if the name of the game is we're going to beat them up in the paint and hope to beat them that way, good luck trying to keep up with them scoring-wise when you have the best player in the country from the perimeter. Best of luck to you. Next up, we have the LSU Tigers, who the Basketball Power Index gives a 4.3% chance to win it all. And my biggest question right now is, how bad is Angel Reese's ankle again? Just curious, because she rolled it during the SEC tournament. She walked into the SEC championship with a boot on it. Clearly, she didn't look 100% during the game. When the big fight brawl was going on, she was limping away to the sideline. Now, granted, she's going to play regardless. Like, that's Baltimore strong right there, baby. Like, she going to go out there. But if it continues to get worse during the tournament, at what point is it going to be like, hey, man, you might be better off sitting this one out? That might be a tough conversation for Kim Mulkey to have with her, but if it gets to that point, who knows? But they still are the defending national champions, so they can't be dismissed. The guard play hasn't been to the caliber that it was last year. Now, Haley Van Lith and Flau'jae are great players. Don't get me wrong. But can we see either one of them having the Alexis Morris run that she had those last 3 games, where she looked like Chris Paul coming off those screens and hitting those mid-range jumpers and distributing the ball? I can't see that personally right now. I hope I'm wrong, but I can't see that right now. Size-wise, though, is where they're going to be able to take advantage of a lot of teams. Aforementioned Angel Reese, assuming she has the use of both of her feet, Anissa Morrow, and they made it a point to give Aaliyah Del Rosa some minutes in that South Carolina game in some pretty big spots. I think that was very purposeful by Kim Mulkey because they're going to need her going down the stretch. Another big red flag for LSU is, as I mentioned before, they have not beaten South Carolina in the last 16 games, specifically Kim Mulkey's last 3 seasons that she has been, well, the only 3 seasons she's been at LSU. She is yet to beat South Carolina. And they were able to win it all last year because they were on the other side of the bracket. And they should thank the good Lord that Caitlin Clark was able to knock him out the tournament, because who knows what would have happened in the Natty if they would have made it. Next up, we got USC with the freshman of the year, and you could argue second best player in the country, Juju Watkins. We've seen stories like this before, right? Where the freshman superstar is better than we all think, goes on a magical run through the tournament, and her team ends up winning it all. And this is the Trojans' best chance to make it back to the Final Four since 1994 when Lisa Leslie was there. They do have 2 things that concern me a little bit, specifically that Pac-12 championship game, where Juju went 2 for 15 with 1 assist when Stanford just committed 3 people to defending her religiously every single play, regardless of what happened. Now, they won that game pretty handily, but if that's the blueprint to slowing her down or making sure she doesn't have one of her phenomenal scoring games, how long are the other players who Hallie Rowe called the Juju understudies, which so disrespectful, Howie. Goddamn, how dare you? If that's the blueprint, how sustainable will that be for an entire tournament run? And I look at that game and I compare it to the Caitlin Clark game. And I'm like, oh, that's where 3 years of being the best player on the planet, you can see the difference. Because teams can't play Caitlin Clark the way they played Juju in that Pac-12 championship, because Caitlin will hit you for 10, 12 assists, where Juju at this point in her career was only able to hit him for 1. Quick aside, Bill Simmons from The Ringer, y'all know who Bill Simmons is, on his podcast told a quick story about Juju, because apparently Juju and Bill Simmons' daughter Zoe are the same age. And they were supposed to be on the same basketball team together, but she was so damn good that Juju wasn't allowed to play on the team with the rest of the girls her age. I bring that up to say, since you were a little girl, you've been the best player by a mile on every team you've been on, not a lot of experience playmaking. Because in a lot of these teams, high school, AAU, it's been a lot of, all right, here you go, here's the ball, go score. That's pretty much all the system, and that's why the development of American players is what it is today. The other red flag for them is against teams that have some size on them, those big forwards and centers have been able to give them a little bit of go. Granted, they were able to beat Stanford both times, but one of them required Juju to drop 51 points, and the other one they were able to take her out the game completely. And Cameron Brink, those games averaged 19 points, 12.5 boards, and 7 blocks, which was insane when I read the number. I had to go back and watch the games to make sure that wasn't a typo. And then Alicia Pili, who my personal favorite player in college basketball, love watching her play. Utah beat them twice, with Alyssa giving them 30 points and 7.5 boards a game. So if they run into some teams with some size, I'm curious to see how that goes throughout the tournament. But again, if it turns out that they have the best player in the tournament, specifically at guard, you never know what can happen. Next up, we got Notre Dame, who ESPN gives a 3.5% chance to win it all. And oh, buddy, if we're talking about guard play, in a world where Juju Watkins is a year or so younger or older, we'd be talking about Hannah Hildego as the runaway freshman player of the year. Notre Dame is down a second-team All-American guard in Olivia Miles, who hasn't played a single game this year, and Sonia Citron, who's first-team All-ACC, who's only played, I think, 2 or 3 games all year long. And Hannah, at the tender age of what, 18, just came in and was like, I got this, guys. Third leading scorer in the country, 23.6 points a game, 5.5 assists a game, leads the nation in steals with 4.6 a game, with a great performance to win their conference championship, playing all 40 minutes. This team is on a heater too. They've won 8 straight games, including the aforementioned conference championship, and they have won in a variety of ways. They've put up a bunch of buckets. They've won low-scoring games where they had to rely on defense. I like teams that are be able to give it to you however you want it and can adjust game plan-wise. I think that is a glaring and phenomenal reflection of their head coach, whose name I always butcher. I apologize. Miss Niall Ivy, Jaden Ivy mama, and is able to coach this team and game plan and switch it up. So whatever type of game you want it to be, she got a plan for you. Can't wait to see how this team turns out during this run. Next up, we got UConn. Talked about them earlier. Got a basketball power index chance of 13.8%. They are the second favorite to win it all. Now, they've been out of the national conversation a little more than they've been for even the most casual, I only check in every once in a while college basketball fan for the women's game. You've seen UConn in the national championship quite frequently. In fact, they had the NCAA record for most consecutive appearances in the Final Four from 2008 to 2022. That was just broken last year. But this year, it's been some injuries. The Big East isn't what it used to be as far as competition. They had some weird out-of-conference losses. But the big headline is Paige Beckers got 2 functioning knees again. And God damn it, she is back. She is getting busy. She's having her best season at UConn so far. 21 points a game on 53, 43, 85% shooting. Combined 83 points in the Huskies' 3 Big East tournament games. I expect a, hey guys, remember me type tournament run for her in this next upcoming month. It's like she's only been the best player in her class her entire life. And if not for these injuries that she's had these past couple years, we'd be reminded of it constantly. But she's back. I don't think people will realize this yet, but she's back. We're going to recognize it soon, though. Next up, we got Stanford, who they give a 9.5% chance through the ESPN Basketball Power Index. In the Pac-12 championship game, Cameron Brink, who in a world where Caitlin Clark doesn't exist, would be the consensus #1 pick for the WNBA draft. She just announced, I believe, 2 days ago, 1 day ago. Got 19-10 with 6 blocks. And the actual leading scorer on the Stanford basketball team, Kiki Ifriden, I apologize to her for butchering her name. I don't know why as a West African I struggle with pronouncing African names. Put in another 18-7 herself. They actually finished with the best record in the Pac-12 this year. But their 5 losses have been weird this year, right? 4 of them are the Pac-12 foes, where the offense just didn't show up, weirdly. Colorado, they scored 59. USC, the first time, they scored 58, which is the game where Juju almost outscored them by herself. Arizona, 61, and then Arizona, 61 again. Their other loss was to Gonzaga, where they allowed almost 100 points. So I don't know which Stanford team is going to be able to show up, but when you have a center and a forward down low that are going to be able to control and dominate games, it's going to be a tough out for any team that sees them this tournament. As y'all can see, I'm real excited for this March Madness we're going to have coming up. It's some great teams in there, some great players in there, and I expect every single TV rating record, social media record to be broken. A lot of these players are going to be household names by the time this tournament's over. Angel Reese and Caitlin Clark already are, but Paige Beckers and Hannah Hildegold specifically, we're going to leave this tournament looking at them like, oh, shit. Okay. Oh, and obviously Juju Watkins is in household name territory as well. It's going to be a fun March. I can't wait to partake in it with y'all. We're going to do a quick break, and then we'll be right back. I could not get out of here without giving a rest in peace to the GOAT of all GOATs, Akira Toriyama. And as I was thinking about how I was going to do this segment, the question that kept coming to my mind is, why do minorities love Dragon Ball so much, specifically black people and Hispanics? Why do we love Dragon Ball so much? It's to the point where Dragon Ball is the McDonald's of anime. Even if you don't eat fast food, you've been to McDonald's. Even if you don't watch anime, you've seen Dragon Ball of some iteration, more than likely Z. But I really had to sit down and ask myself, why do minorities identify with this show so much and so deeply? We talk ad nauseum about representation and wanting to see ourselves on screen, and rightfully so, damn it, we deserve to see ourselves on screen. But these shows had none of that. In fact, you can argue that some of the representation of black people in particular has been awful, not including Mr. Popo. He's not based on a black person, he's based on a Hindu god. Pay attention to what he's wearing and not his actual skin color and lips, you racist bastards. But when you think about it, the story of Goku at its essence is a minority and immigrant story. At its core, Dragon Ball is a fish out of water story, except in this case, the fish is Poseidon. When Bulma first meets Goku in that first episode of Dragon Ball, she literally shoots the man in the face. Well, he's a boy at the time. Shoots him in the face. And he eats the bullet. The man's bulletproof before he even knows what a bullet is. In this new world he's entering, he is already extraordinary without even knowing why. Innately, he's already extraordinary. Even when they finally go to train with Master Roshi. Remember the scene where Master Roshi tries the Kamehameha the first time and he has to bulk up all severely, and he talks about how this move took him years to learn, and it's this super dramatic scene and he does it and it's like, wow, look at that move. And then Goku tries it his first time and does that shit in seconds because, again, innately, he is extraordinary, even in this new world he is living in. Beyond even the fish out of water story, Dragon Ball, time and time again, is about overcoming insurmountable odds through sheer force of will and hard work and determination. It's a power fantasy in a way, but in a positive way. Why Goku was such a perfect protagonist was he wasn't good in conquering evil for selfish reasons. He was pure of heart and good for goodness sake without being a Boy Scout or being corny, which is damn near impossible to balance. Ask anyone who's tried to make a Superman movie. It's damn near impossible. Even as a youngin' going from fighting androids and triclopses and demons and sending a rabbit to the moon, and then to push the fish out of water narrative even further, Dragon Ball Z starts and Akira Toriyama says, hey, remember that monkey boy y'all fell in love with for what, 150 episodes? Well, it turns out he's an alien, and his brother is here to destroy the world. What? But I gotta bring up the ultimate overcoming the odds moment, and I think this perfectly encapsulates, if that's a word, why minorities identify so much with this show. On a count of three, everyone at the same time, say what your favorite Dragon Ball Z moment is. 1, 2, 3, Goku turning Super Saiyan for the first time. In the face of danger unparalleled to anything he has seen before, against a man responsible for the destruction of his people on a foreign planet immediately after watching his best friend get murdered in front of him, Goku channels the power of his ancestors to achieve an ascended state that has not been seen in centuries, and use that ascended state to defeat white supremacy. I mean, Frieza, if that's not some black shit, I don't know what is. And when you put Dragon Ball in that context, it makes perfect sense why we as minorities, specifically black people and Hispanics, identify so much with Dragon Ball and with Goku in particular. There's a reason why they're about to come out with their 5th different Dragon Ball series where they're making Goku a kid again. There's a reason why this character that we're closer to 40 years later from its original conception still identifies with us so much. And it's so much deeper than this. Look at his muscles. Look at him yell, the blonde hair and rah, kamehameha. It's so much deeper than that. And the fact that a man who created this character because he failed a writing contest for a story he submitted and decided he was going to keep pushing and ultimately created Dragon Ball from it. Imagine creating a global phenomenon that spans decades and honestly will be here much longer than he is. To create something that outlives you, born out of rejection, that many people can identify with. There's people with Dragon Ball tattoos. There's people who name their children after Dragon Ball characters. It's a level of influence in and outside of anime that I don't know if anyone's going to be able to achieve again. Precise story that's still somehow universally applicable. It's a phenomenal feat for any storyteller. And for that, Mr. Akira Toriyama, a very strong rest in peace to you. God bless his family, wherever they may be. I hope all is well. We'll take a quick break, and then we'll get to our next topic. All right, so before I get out of here, I got to send out a hearty fuck you to head coach Nick Saban, well, now former head coach, and everyone who thinks like him when it comes to NIL and the payment of these players. For y'all that missed it, this past week, Nick Saban went on Capitol Hill sitting next to Ted Cruz, of all people, and in the face of a country dealing with severe inflation, we're on the brink of recession, eggs are $8 per carton. What Nick Saban thought was so pressing that he just had to go up to Congress and talk about was making sure that these players can't get paid as much as they want to. I got some excerpts here from specifically Yahoo Sports article written by Ross Sellinger. Always make sure you credit people who write articles you're quoting, kids. First excerpt. 2 months removed from announcing his retirement, Saban offered a thundering image to college sports world. Pay the players, but with limitations. I'm for student athletes being able to share in some of this revenue, he said. The number one solution is if we could have some kind of revenue sharing proposition that did not make student athletes employees, that may be the long-term solution. I don't want them to be employees, but I want them to share in the revenue in some type of way. Now, before we get some more quotes, to anyone with even half a brain, how could you pay somebody based on the money they are generating for you and not have them be employees? Don't worry, I'll wait for an actual answer, because you couple that with Nick Saban also actively fighting against union efforts in the 2 months he's been removed as Alabama coach. It sounds like he's trying to stiff these players out of the benefits they receive and clout it as he's looking out for these players, which clearly he is not. We'll go back to the article. At some point before his retirement decision, his wife Terry approached him with a question. Why are we doing this? She said, all the players care about is how much we're going to pay them. They don't care about how you're going to develop them, which is what we've always done. So why are we doing this? Saban said that was kind of the red alert that we're creating a circumstance that is not beneficiary to the development of young people, which is what I always said we did, unquote. Okay, a lot to unpack there. Number one, NFL coaches have been developing paid athletes since the dawn of time. The NFL has always been a paid league in its 100-year history. And coaches all over the place have been developing players nonstop, including Nick Saban, who used to be an NFL coach. And we used to hear religiously how these college coaches fail in the NFL because they can't adjust their approach to coach in a league. The college approach and the NFL approach aren't the same thing. You know what they're actually saying? These manipulation tactics that you've been using in college aren't going to work with people that are actually being paid. You're actually gonna have to coach them. You can't hold these people's futures ahead of them anymore because they're in their future. And to the point about players caring, all they care about getting paid. Hey, Nick, if all you cared about was developing players, then why aren't you still at Toledo? Why aren't you still at Michigan State? This is for you, and all coaches like you have always been about getting the best opportunity, earning as much money as you can, and securing your financial future. According to Forbes, Nick Saban has earned nearly $150 million through his 5-decade coaching career. Now, that's before agent fees and taxes, so let's call it 75. Reported net worth of anywhere between 70 and 93 million. And this is what really pissed me off. Nick Saban himself has a name, image, and likeness deal with Aflac. All those commercials you see them, most recently with Dawn Staley, that used to be with Dion. I don't know if those will be back for the college football season, we'll see. Where he is receiving a reported $5 million a year, which is the exact same as the highest NIL evaluation for a college athlete, Bronny James. Yes, that Bronny James. And for a player that doesn't have a famous father, it's over double what Travis Hunter has with $2.3 million evaluation. So what the hell are we talking about here, Nick Saban? You've never coached for free. These players have been generating revenue for you, Alabama, and schools across the country for literally 100 years since the NCAA has been in existence. These TV deals that the SEC and the Big Ten alone has is going to pay them between now and 2029 $40 to $50 million a school. But God forbid these players get a couple $100,000 to go to your school. And again, what continues to piss me off is hearing these college elites, these people that have been running this system for these college programs forever, is hearing them say the quiet part out loud. Got another quote for you. Alabama Athletic Director Greg Brine, whatever the fuck your name is, in his opening statement at the roundtable at Capitol Hill. If it weren't for football, we would not have 21 sports at the University of Alabama. We don't want to see colleges lose women's sports or Olympic sports. Some of you hear that quote and say, these players want to get paid, we're going to lose women's sports. I hear that quote and say, if we didn't take advantage of these football players, this entire college system will crumble because we will not invest ourselves into these programs. We have to take their money to do it. This entire NCAA system, not even just college football, the whole system has been built on a lie and the facade of amateurism. We have known this. We have ignored this. And with the NIL legalization, which isn't even old enough to go to preschool yet, by the way, that exploitation has stopped, kinda, because again, these schools still aren't paying these players. It's collectives and boosters for the most part paying them, with the exception of the top 0.1% of athletes that are actually able to get sponsorship deals. So the fact that the thought of players wanting to take part in this revenue they've been generating for you for a century will make this whole system crumble. To all the players, if this is not a sign you should unionize, I don't know what is. Oh, but thankfully, I think we're on the way. We have the first players union in college sports. As of March 5th, 2024, the Dartmouth men's basketball team voted to unionize 13-2 in an unprecedented step towards forming the first labor union for college athletes. Of course, it's the Ivy League school that did it first. That is from Reuters.com, written by Daniel Weisner. I hope that college players around the world are watching this happen and go, they think it's so important to make sure we don't get paid that they're willing to go to Congress about it. If we don't fight for our rights, no one will. Now, is the NIL system perfect? No, of course it isn't. But God damn it, y'all have had 100 years to get it right, and you haven't. I have zero sympathy for you if you have taken a part of this system and have not taken the chance to get it right. So again, I say, fuck you to the NCAA, fuck you to Greg Brine, fuck you to everyone who is partaking in this system that has been exploiting these athletes for 100 years, even going as far to suspend and defame these athletes the moment they even tried to get their own little piece of the pie, knowing you're fucking them over. That concludes today's podcast. Like, follow, rate, review, all that fun shit, man. I'm gone.